It is so cold out there. Ooh, 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 ooh. Ah, oh, it's freezing. But had to go out in order to find out what kind of trees were growing out in the woods. You can identify plants even in the wintertime with twigs. You can see a lot of features, some of the same features you can even see in the spring and the summer. Hey, I think I'll save these for the students in the Ohio Plants course in May. Ooh, but it's so cold. I want some hot chocolate. Let's start with this confidence builder twig. It's a nice large one with very prominent features. And we'll key this one out all together. So the key starts kind of where you'd expect a key to trees to start, with leaf arrangement. Although in this case it's leaf scar arrangement. And it's opposite, or close to opposite, versus alternate. So we can see the leaf arrangement by seeing the leaf scar arrangement. And here's a leaf scar. And is there another one right across from it? No. You need to travel a ways to get to the next leaf. That takes us to couplet 45. And couplet 45 asks whether the twigs are thorny or spiny, or if the twigs are not thorny or spiny. And if they are, we go to 46, and if they aren't, we go to 62. So I don't see any thorns or spines or bristles or prickles. Couplet 62 asks about the pith, and it's actually sort of a general question about the pith. Is it chambered, or is it anything but chambered? And this pith is certainly not chambered. In fact, it doesn't have any kind of partitions or any sort of spaces or holes in it. It's continuous and homogeneous. That might come in handy for later. So couplet 69 asks about the growth form of the plant. And you can't really tell from just the twig, but you remember when you collected it. This twig and all of the twigs in our twig set are all arborescent. They're all trees. No vines, no shrubs. In which case we go to couplet number 74. Couplet 74 seems to be asking about the pith again, but the earlier couplet just asked whether or not it was chambered, and now it's going a little more detail, and that's why we took a close look, and it was indeed homogeneous and not spongy. So we go to couplet 7. Couplet 78 is asking us if the twigs have minute globose resin droplets. Let's take a close look at the twig and see if they do. No, I don't see any globose resin droplets. I see lenticels. These are these little slits, these little freckles. They're breathing pores, but those aren't resin droplets. That takes us to couplet 80. And couplet 80 is kind of goes on and on. Leaf scars minute, in spirals, bundle scars, single twigs lined from the leaf scars. A very detailed description of something that is totally not this twig. And that's happens to be our first instance where there's an actual plant that comes up. It's larch, it's a deciduous conifer, which this totally isn't. So we go to couplet number 81. And couplet 81 asks whether there are buds on this plant. Let's take a look and see. Indeed there are. Here in the circular items that are right above the leaf scar, which is where buds usually are. Remember that buds form in the axils of leaves. So imagine a leaf there, that's where a bud would be, and that's where the bud still is, even though the leaf fell. And there's a sort of circular bud with some scales on it. Nice, bud. So that took us to couplet 84, which asked whether or not leaf scars were present. And of course they are. So we'll go to couplet 87. 87 asks about stipule scars. Stipule scars. And not only whether or not they're present, but if they're present, whether they form a ring around the twig. That would be interesting to see. Well, this is where a stipule scar would be, at the upper corner of the leaf scar, and I don't see anything there that looks like there was ever a stipule attached there. Nope, no stipule scars. So that took us to couplet 89 that asked if it had a nice odor or any kind of special spicy wintergreen odor. And no, these twigs don't have any odor. If anything, it's kind of like a rancid peanut butter smell. So all of our twigs lack a special odor. So the nothing's lost by the distance learning phenom. So let's go to couplet 93. Couplet 93 asks whether the buds are naked or whether the buds are scaly. And we looked at the buds before and took a close look and saw that they in fact had scales on them. So we're going to go to couplet 10. Couplet 108 wants to know whether or not the bud scale is single or like forming a cap over the bud, or whether or not there are two or more. Eek, we got to look close for that one. Oh, I see several bud scales. They're coming up to the edge and overlapping some. There's not a bud scale fitting like a cap. Nope, two or more. So couplet 109 is asking whether or not the buds are stalked. Now these buds are just plunk, sessile, sitting on top of the twig right above the leaf scar. They're not stalked. So it's without that combination of characters. So we go to couplet 110. 110 is asking about the bundle scars. Those are the little spots that are within the leaf scar. Let's take a close look to see if they are in fact plural spots. And I believe they are. In this big U-shaped leaf scar, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, about a dozen near the rim of the leaf scar are bundle scars where the leaf veins connected through. So that took us to couplet 119, and there were about a dozen bundle scars, not just two. So we go to couplet 120. And couplet 120 asks about the terminal bud, whether or not it's long or whether or not it's actually lacking. So let's take a look at the end of this twig. This twig doesn't have a terminal bud. This twig's last formed lateral bud is near the tip, and it looks like a terminal bud, but it's exactly the same as the lateral buds, because it is a lateral bud, and it's not pointing straight ahead. And what we see now, just barely, is a tip scar. There on the right is the remnant of where the branch broke off after stopping growing. So there's not a terminal bud in this species. The terminal bud being lacking, we went to couplet 25, and it asks 125, and it asks about the pith in cross section. Ooh, break out the razor blade. Oh, the pith is circular. It doesn't look angled at all. Very big, too. That takes us to couplet 133, which asks whether the twigs are ridged or lined, some kind of shredding, cracking thing. Well, we looked at this twig enough to see that it's fairly smooth. So let's just dash off to couplet 135. And that asks us again. That asks us again about the growth form. Again, this is off a fairly straightforward tree. So we're asked about the terminal bud, and again, a little more refinement. And this is one where the terminal bud is not present. It has a false terminal bud, which is just the last form lateral bud. So we go to couplet 143. 143 asks if these twigs are stout and the leaf scars are large, conspicuous, and shield-shaped. Yeah, they are. This is kind of a mondo twig. So we go to couplet 144, and we're asked about the buds, whether they're solitary, and the bundle scars are about 9. Well, I counted 12, but I was counting fast. Or the buds are run on top of each other with only 3 bundle scars. Arranged bundle scars along the edge. This is it. Ailanthus or tree of heaven. Yes, this is tree of heaven. Hooray! Hooray! Our first keyed out twig. That was easy. Let's do some more.